Hi, this is Sean D'Souza, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation Podcast. This podcast isn't some magic trick about how to work less. Instead, it's about how to really enjoy the work that you do and to enjoy your vacation time. Hi, it's Sean, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation. Back in 2003, I was in real trouble when it came to writing articles. I'd just started the membership site at 5000 BC, but it contained no content at all, which was fine at first because the reason why many early members joined was just to have a place to have a conversation online. However, even in those very early days of the internet, it was clear that conversation alone was not going to be enough. What made matters worse is that I was extremely slow at writing articles. Every article would take me at least 2 days, if I were lucky. And the writing was only part of the problem. The second, more significant problem was getting topics to write about. In marketing, you can write about sales, you can write about websites and headlines and pricing and conversion, and that list seems to go on and on. You'd think that having such a broad scope of topics would make things easier, but instead it drove me crazy. I had to find a way to solve these two problems all at once. I had not only to become a faster writer, but I needed a constant and very predictable stream of topics to populate the early version of 5000 BC. So I decided to go deep instead of wide, and headlines came to my rescue. Instead of writing articles, I simply wrote headlines. I'd choose a topic like strategic alliances, and then I'd write every possible headline I could on that topic. Almost immediately, a sense of calm came over me because I realized that I already knew quite a lot just based on the headlines. And I realized that writing articles on a single topic allowed me to create a series of sorts. I loved series, I still love series, and I'm pretty sure that most people like series as well. Because series brings out this feeling of sequence, it brings out this feeling of order, and there's no downside. Well, I couldn't see any downside. So I concentrated on writing headlines about things I already knew. And I started on this series called Strategic Alliances. Here's a list of headlines that I wrote quite quickly. How to create strategic alliances from competitors. The discipline of strategic alliance acquisition. Why you need to investigate alliance bonuses carefully. This was because of a really bad experience. The shortcut to getting an alliance's attention, how to punch above your weight and get superstar strategic alliances. And it goes on and on and on. And there are a whole bunch of headlines, no articles, just headlines on the topic of strategic alliances. And if you were to see this in print, you would realize that some of them are not even good headlines. They're just points, but they've got this how and this why and this how to. And that just makes them headline-like. And yet it facilitated this brainstorming of topics and subtopics, because sometimes subtopics can be quite hard to figure out. But when you write them as headlines, there is something different about them. They seem to feel more finished. And I guess for me at least, is that I tend to write a headline once I've finished the article, once I've completed it. But when I wrote the headlines first, it gave me this feeling of quiet confidence because it made me feel like the article was already done. There was clear direction to that article. However, there are times when I'd get stuck and I'd not have topics, which is one of the reasons why I love email. I know how people detest email, but I love it to bits. Well, I don't love it to bits all the time, but most of the time I just love it because when I subscribed to newsletters, and I used to subscribe to a lot of newsletters back then, I used to get at least a dozen different newsletters every single day. And maybe one email would talk about how to create presentations. So that would become my topic, my theme for the day. Let's explore this concept of presentations, and then now we just write a dozen headlines on presentations. But sometimes I'd get something like cash flow or Excel spreadsheets, and that would make me want to take a quick nap. However, by and large, it wasn't hard to channel the power of someone else's topics and get my own themes going, my own brainstorm going. And when I ran out of newsletters, I'd invariably get questions from clients. Admittedly, I don't get a lot of questions because clients can be respectful of your time. But every now and then you will get questions in email. And instead of treating the questions like a bother or discouraging those clients from sending questions, I'd send them further questions like, send me a list. What are the things that bug you a lot? And then I'd sit down and write headlines, and my brainstorming choo-choo train would be on the move again. And if that method failed, then I'd read comments on blogs or forums. And forums can be a fascinating place. If you look at 5000 BC, which is our membership site, our forum, here are some of the topics just this morning. How to start up a coaching service. How do I position myself in a crowded market? I'm looking for ways to improve my writing. Email writing style. Where to focus first. So I have been blogging. What next? I need help selling a presentation online. These are all topics. And once you have the topic, you don't have to think of the topic. I didn't have to think of the topic. All I could do is go, okay, I'm going to write headlines for these topics. And today you have blog posts, you have podcast lists, you have YouTube. You can look all around you and you have got these topics. And what you've got to do is then write headlines that kind of take them to the subtopic level. And this takes us to what you can do next. So if you're planning to write, why not write a series? Step 1 would be pick a topic. Just one of them will do for now. Then brainstorm a series of headlines on that topic. Don't try to write good headlines. Just write how and how to feed dinosaurs when they are running around. Just the how and the why is enough, just so it has a semblance of feeling like a headline. Don't evaluate the headline. So you start with a topic, you brainstorm a series of headlines on that topic, and then you organize the headlines so that they look like a series of sorts. So you'll write a whole bunch of headlines, and maybe they'll look all like a jigsaw puzzle. Move them around so that it's kind of got a sequence to it. It doesn't have to have a sequence. And then after that, you start writing short articles. And this last point, writing short articles, is very crucial as well. Today I can turn out a 4,000 to 5,000 word article in a single morning. This podcast transcript took about 45 minutes to write. However, when we go back in time to 2001, 2002, it would take me a lot more time just to write an 800 word to 1,000 words. And I solved this problem by writing shorter articles, by writing a bunch of sequenced articles or a bunch of articles that just covered one tiny little bit. And this would take me from one to the next, just like I did with those strategic alliance articles. How to find the strategic alliances, what to say to them, what to put in the email, just little bits of information that are strung together to create this semblance of a sequence. And it's not just a semblance, it is a sequence. They're just shorter articles. And that gave me the confidence that I knew enough, and it helped me to keep going when my writing skills were a lot less polished than today. So when I look at the articles from way back, I want to take all of them down. But clients read them today. They find them useful today. My writing and editing skills have changed a lot. My storytelling has improved in leaps and bounds. I might find those articles to not be to my taste, but clients love them. What they also love are the series. And how did those series come about? Yes, it started with topics, and it started with a good dose of headline brainstorming. Ironically, I've given up this method of headline brainstorming, and I've gone back to this highly confusing process of finding new and different topics. And guess what I'm going to do right after I finish this podcast? I'm going to sit down at the cafe and brainstorm on a single topic, possibly something that came in email. So what's the one thing you can do? Open up your email, look for a topic, and then just write a whole bunch of headlines. You'll be surprised at how much you know and how you're able to turn out headlines faster than anything else, even if they're not great headlines. I'll say bye for now. Hey, but wait, what's happening in Psychotactics land? Well, we're at the end of the year, so there's just one thing to go, which is the pre-sale course, which is on the 22nd of November. Now, you've probably seen how quickly we sell out stuff, and we don't do this through any hoopla. In fact, most people don't even know that we exist on the internet. We've just kept a very low profile right through for the last 19 years, almost 20 years now. And yet we're able to sell out very quickly to very small audiences. And there's a pretty good chance that you have a very small audience as well. So pre-sale especially makes a difference with these very small audiences. And of course, if you have a big audience, better for you. But if you want to find out more about that and you want to get some goodies, you want to get on the waiting list, then you have to go to psychotactics.com/pre, as in PRE, and goodies. So that's how you remember it, just pre and goodies. And of course, you'll get the goodies and you'll get on the waiting list. And that's it from Psychotactics Land. I'll say bye for now. Still listening? One of the things that I find consistently drives people crazy when they're writing is the lack of preparation. And if you look at the Psychotactics newsletter, it has been running since 2002, every week, without fail, twice a week. And before that, we had a different site, badly named, called Million Bucks, but that had a newsletter as well. That was less frequent, maybe twice a month. But what's happened is there's been this consistency for close to 20 years. You look at the podcast, we started out end of 2014. Again, there's this consistency week after week after week after week after week. And if you think, well, how do I do the same thing or how do I do something similar? A lot of it depends on the planning and the topics and the subtopics. And as I told you today, just writing those headlines just makes it easier to get to that subtopic level. But that planning is what people fail to do. That basic, let's sit down and write the topics. Let's just get these ingredients together. Then you go to the outlining stage, and then somewhere down the line, you're writing an article. Most people jump to that third step before they complete the first and second step. And that's why it's so hard. If you want to get good at something, there are steps, and of course you can ignore them or you can follow those steps. And that's what professionals tend to do. They have a system in place and they follow that system, even though it can be boring at times. Why? Because sometimes they decide, let's be creative, let's break that system. They break it, everything slows down, it's trouble. So what I would recommend you do is get into that habit of creating those steps, going through those steps. And 5000 BC is a really good place because we have a forum where you can ask questions, but there's also a taking action forum, and that enables you to stay on track, which is probably one of the more difficult things to do in a very distracted world. So we'll see you in 5000 BC, and I hope that this piece will help you write a whole bunch of articles, because it's really something about planning and getting that stuff out as a sequence. If you want to read more of these sequences, they're also in 5000 BC. So let's see you in 5000 BC, and I'll say bye for now. Bye-bye.